Hi everybody, we are in chapter 10. We just came out of chapter 8 where we saw that Samuel is now old. His sons take over, but they are corrupted in their ways. The nation then comes to Samuel and say, but we want a king like all the other nations. And then in chapter 9 we see Saul enter the scene. He's looking for his father's donkeys. He ends up with Samuel in Ramah, and that's where Samuel then hints that he will be king. He takes him up the next morning to the roof, and that's where chapter 10 starts, with him about to anoint Saul.
Yes, and Saul does not want to accept the appointment as king. Saul seems to be very hesitant, and so Samuel gives him 3 signs. All of the signs that Samuel gives Saul to accept the appointment as king relate to this region surrounding us, the region of the Benjamin Hill country, here which we see from the modern settlement of Psagot, with the modern city of Ramallah and Elbira in our background. And here Samuel gives Saul 3 signs. The first sign relates to the burial place of Rachel, which the tradition in the book of Samuel places in the Benjamin Hill country, unlike our modern tradition, which places it in Bethlehem. The second sign relates to the city of Beit El, or Bethel, which is just east of us here in the Benjamin Hill country, where Saul receives gifts from people who are going up to God. And the third sign relates to the city of Giv'ah, or Gibeah, which is due south of us, where Saul becomes a prophet. Here Saul, for a very short time, accepts the mantle of prophecy, and it's that, as well as the giving of gifts to him, that leads him to accept the role of king with which he's being vested here in chapter 10 in this region.
Right, and then we go on to chapter 8, and it says Samuel tells him to wait for 7 days. It says, wait 7 days until I come to you and instruct you. Yeah, correct. So, and then suddenly nothing happens with those 7 days. It seems like it just disappears. What happens here?
Yes, there is indeed a break in the narrative, which is difficult to understand, and it's indeed an exegetical difficulty. But instead of the assembly at Gilgal, which will be resumed in chapter 13, we find here instead an assembly at Mitzpah. Mitzpah is a location mentioned in this chapter where the assembly takes place, and it is a Judahite city from later periods, which we know about at Tel En-Nasbeh. You notice the word Nasbeh contains the sound of Mitzpah. Tel En-Nasbeh is just behind us, inside the modern city of Elbira, and you can see it on the hill over there, the yellow hill with 5 trees on its top. Samuel gathers the Israelites here, and he reviews with them the entire history of Israel since the Exodus.
Something interesting happens then. We see here that he says, God tells him, I'm the one that brought you out of Egypt, I'm the one that delivered you from all the kings, and now you are seeking a king. And God, even in chapter 8, he mentions this, but here he mentions it again, that he views that as a rejection. And here we see when he gathered them at Mitzpah that God then says, I'm the God that led you out of Egypt. I'm the one that delivered you from all the kings, but now you want a king. And God views that as a rejection. We also see that he mentioned already in Deuteronomy 17 that a king will be appointed. How can we get around this, Sean?
It's indeed an exegetical difficulty. There are, as the rabbis look at Deuteronomy 17, and note there 2 possible approaches. Either a positive view towards kingship, seeing kingship as a necessity, as a mitzvah, or seeing kingship as a concession. And here in the book of Samuel, clearly the book of Samuel sees kingship as a concession. It's something that's necessary but not ideal. The reason for that is not so difficult to understand. From the time of the Exodus through the books of Joshua and Judges, the Israelites have had an egalitarian society. Society where each person has their own land and where taxes and tithes are remitted solely to God. God is the owner of the land and the person is a landholder under God. If we move to a system of kingship, we then move to an idea where the king can compel people to give resources to the monarchy. The king can extract resources, as Samuel says in chapter 8. And that implies a new hierarchy in which there is God, king, and the regular person. That is what the book of Samuel fights against. And God here, when he says, you have rejected me, it means you have rejected the idea that I am the direct owner of the land. You are appointing a king as a sort of middleman to extract resources and to use it for the collective or for the king's own benefit, depending on how just the king is.
We move back to the narrative, and this is where the lottery takes place, and we see that Saul is not arrogant. We actually saw that in the previous chapter as well, where he says, I'm the least, Benjamin is the least of the tribes, I'm the least of my clan, I can't understand why this is happening to me. And now with the lottery itself, again, he's hiding behind the baggage. The lottery takes place and they find out that they don't know where he is. That's where Samuel then knows how to find him.
Yes. And we see here that Saul is indeed humble. Saul is not arrogant. Saul does not seem to be the kind of king who will arrogate people's property to himself. Saul receives the support of the Israelites, and here at Mitzpah, the Israelites all call out, "Long live the king." And Saul here is anointed as the first king of Israel.